Hi everyone, in today's video I'll show you how I made this miniature hanging pothos, a project once again inspired by a real plant I have at home. The video is divided into 3 sections. First I'll show you how I made the ceramic pot, then the plant hanger, and lastly the plant itself. For the pot, I first made a mold using this glass bead as my matrix. Well, actually, I will only use half of the bead. After mixing my 2-component silicone putty, I carefully press it all around half of my glass bead, making sure that there are no air pockets. After the silicone has cured, I remove the bead and also get rid of the extra bit of silicone at the bottom of the mold. I then take a bit of white polymer clay, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's the best medium when it comes to imitate ceramic, and I start creating the pot inside the mold, first with my fingers and then with the help of a dotting tool. I basically press the clay towards the walls of the mold, gradually building the bowl. It's a slow process, but it's the best method, at least for me, to create a round-shaped pot if you don't have a pottery wheel. And it doesn't matter if the top edge is not perfectly flat, I'll fix that later with a blade and some sanding. After baking everything together, I remove the pot from the mold and trim off the edges. Then I paint the pot using watered down acrylics to imitate the uneven glazing effect that some ceramic pieces have. And lastly, I apply a generous amount of gloss varnish and let dry. Next up is the plant hanger. Now I made it before painting the pot as I hadn't chosen the color yet, which is why you'll see the pot still white in the next clips. To make the hanger, I cut out 8 long pieces of the simple cotton thread. Then I make a knot so that I end up with a small tail and trim it off. I arrange the threads into 4 pairs of 2 threads each, and then I make a first knot this way. And I repeat the same process for the other 3 pairs. The hardest part is getting always the same length between the small knot and the big one in all 4 pairs. So now that I have my first set of knots, I can make the second round, which is made this way. It's quite hard to describe the process here, but I believe that you can understand just by watching the clips. So, second set of knots done, I move on to the third and last set. And now the moment of truth, putting the pot inside the hanger. The end result was not too bad, although as you can see, 2 knots in the top part here are a bit off, meaning that they're too high up, but I will conveniently hide them with some extra leaves, so in the end you won't see them. Time to fill in the pot. I put inside it a bit of cold porcelain, which is a type of air drying clay, and poke some holes in it for the stems. Then I glue the hanger and the plant together, just adding a dab of superglue in this point here. And I tie all the threads together using this little ring and making a simple knot. To work comfortably later when I'll be adding the plant inside the pot, I had to build this funny little structure here. Lastly, I apply a bit of glue and then add a top layer of grounded coffee to imitate soil. And now time to make the plant. If you watched my previous videos about plants, you know I love using cold porcelain, which is super soft and doesn't need conditioning. I mix a bit of clay with some light green acrylic, which will be my base for both the stems and the leaves. For the stems, I roll out some thin long snakes. I let them dry on a lighter so that on one end there is a nice hook. I cut out smaller sections from the same snakes and glue them randomly along the longer stems. And once I have a few of them, I glue them inside the pot. I don't have many clips of this part because my hands were always in the way, hiding most of the process, but I'm sure you understand what I did even with these few clips. Time for the leaves. I used some aluminium foil from a tea light to create a sort of miniature heart-shaped cookie cutter, which will partially speed up the process of creating single heart-shaped leaves. Then I flatten out a bit of clay between 2 sheets of baking paper and then use my cookie cutter. I actually made a smaller version, which I think is more in scale. To paint the leaf, I use some dry pastels mixed with water, which I prefer to acrylics because they don't add any extra thickness. With acrylics, you can sometimes see the paint layer, whereas I want a smooth surface. I then glue the leaves onto the small stems. And as you can see, I have conveniently hidden the 2 offside knots of the plant hanger, surrounding them with a bunch of leaves. And that's the end of it. Please let me know if you have any idea for another hanging plant I should make for the second pot, which was actually my prototype for this project, and for now it's still empty. So any idea is welcome. But other than that, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!